students achieve better academically?
Yes, I think in 3 ways, if I can just quickly mention them. As Alex mentioned just now, either way they are communicating and they almost learn, and by the way, this is how I also view education. For me, education is not just the passage of somebody standing in front of a class and teaching. Either way, the communication that is going on between the students is still knowledge that they are gaining. It's an education that is going on. When I tune into a radio and I'm listening to the information, it's education that is happening. So, to Alex's point, when they are communicating already, whether it's through social media or any other digital platform, or even within their classrooms, they are being educated by whatever information they are passing to each other. So for me, number one, as far as advantage is concerned, I would say they learn better. Basically, the quality of the learning or the education is better because they are learning or sharing or passing the information or whatever thing it is that you expect them to learn from one peer to another, rather than from an authority who is the teacher to you, the student. And so it makes it easier to absorb that learning or that education, whatever the content of it is. It's much easier to do that than through an authority who is a teacher, because whether we like it or not, as much as we try to build rapport and be friendly with the students, they have more rapport with each other than with us.
Because they don't want that authoritative teacher image, as it were.
Well, it's easier if it's from here, because some teachers are very friendly and really build good relations with the students. To the point that they look at, and I've seen this with some students of mine. They see me almost like part of their gang, part of their social circle.
Because you're young.
Yeah, exactly. But also I relate to them, and I try to also bring down myself to their level of, when they're talking about Cristiano Ronaldo, I'm also say, of course, he's the best, he's better than Messi and all that. So they see that, but this is the kind of conversation that happen amongst them. So them learning from each other, it's easier for them to absorb and accept whatever thing or whatever content of learning. And also, as I said earlier, for me, I always tell people that unless you can teach something to somebody effectively, whether it's a knowledge, a skill, or an attitude, you haven't really mastered it. So the quality of education or the quality of the learning is enhanced. That is one. Number two, quickly, collaboration and communication. We always talk about 21st century skills, 4 C's, critical thinking and all that, but that communication and collaboration amongst them, especially with the example that Alex mentioned, project-based learning, it really enhances the quality of output of the education or the project that they do. So that collaboration and communication helps. Finally, I think yesterday in the other room, in the other track, we were talking a lot about social and emotional learning. So I think this peer-to-peer learning or tutorship or peer review, peer feedback, peer evaluation, all of it adds to the social and emotional side of things. Because the students, they do not just learn a lot about themselves, because mind you will think you really know something, but unless you have seen that, oh, I really cannot teach it, or I really don't know this thing, then self-awareness and self-management will happen. And then social awareness, social management also.
So actually there's personal growth in that.
Exactly, especially on the attitude side of things. So I would say those 3 categories or those 3 sets of things are very much the main ways I think that the quality of education and learning is enhanced by peer-to-peer learning.
Okay, thank you. Now, would you like any concluding words, Mr. Kumar, before we proceed?
So definitely, I would like to say that yes, peer-to-peer learning was always there, and it will always be continuing to exist in the informal way. But bringing it in a formal structure, it will have a lot of challenges which we need to overcome. But overall, see, we all are social creatures and we like to socialize. So that is our human tendency. We like to socialize. It was so stressful for many in this pandemic when they were not able to connect with their friends, when they were not able to meet their friends. And this peer-to-peer learning helps them to connect with each other and helps them to transfer their education knowledge and everything. So definitely I look peer-to-peer learning as a future model, like how online has erupted during this pandemic. Very soon I feel that peer-to-peer learning will be one of the greatest module, and it will also be implemented formally, but it requires a lot of time and a lot of work behind it.
On what level? Are we talking about like university level peer-to-peer?
Yes.
Or even postgraduate studies peer-to-peer? Because it depends on the age group. I mean, it really depends on the age group if it's going to be effective or not.
Peer-to-peer learning, according to me, it should be from class 11 till university level or PG
11?
level. Yeah, because small children, I mean, you cannot put them into peer-to-peer learning. Rather than talking about the subject, they will talk something else.
Right.
So if it is graduate students or who are pursuing graduation or PG or class 11 and 12, they are serious about the subject. They are serious about the upcoming exams, boards. So they would be very serious.
But they need to be trained on that strategy early on.
Yes.
So you can implement it early on, but it would be the core.
See,
of how they
training won't take much time because, as I said, peer-to-peer learning is already present in every school, organization, in an informal way.
Mm-hmm.
So they are very much familiar with this kind of model. The problem is when you make it in a formal structure, I mean, the time which is taken is not from the students' end. Training is required for the lecturers' end, for the administration.
Yes. Yes.
So they require a lot of training.
Uh-huh.
But if you put the right student among the group, then I mean, it doesn't require a lot of training. I mean, they will definitely go with the flow.
And you mentioned parents. The parents need to change the culture.
Yeah, I mean, parents won't change that easily.
Their mindset, yes.
They won't change that easily. I mean, unless and until you give them the results. So these are the results. And then parents will say, wow, this is something good. And till that time, parents won't change, and we need to see. The thing is, like, there are many people who will agree, and there are few who will disagree. We just have to see which is the greater cause, which will bring a lot of changes in the student's life.
Which is more impactful.
Which is more impactful. We should work on that. Parents will automatically understand at some point of time.
Thank you.
If we can't make them understand, their own children will make them understand how it has changed their life and how are they growing in terms of subject, in terms of their self-confidence, in terms of their communication skills. So they themselves
will see that in their children.
Exactly.
Thank you. Mr. Alexander, do you have any final thoughts?
I guess it's just, it's hard to change the mindset of parents. I totally agree. I'll become a parent probably 1 to 2, 3 years, a couple of times. and other than I'm thinking, the theory is like this. Whatever my kids do, let them do it. Like if they fail the exam, okay, it's fine. Do it again. Kind of, really positive approach. But that's the theory. The reality will probably look a bit different because we still have a lot of the parent mentality, and it shows up in us as parents and as husbands and wives when we actually get into this. So I guess it's really important for the parents to be just more open to different new learning formats. And if you actually ask a parent, how have you learned about this? They either had a great peer or a great teacher that helped them. And they have seen this teacher as somebody like their co-server. They're really grateful to that teacher. I also think that it's possible to connect students for people to be learning not only in one school, in one environment, but actually across different schools. Because, when you talk about schools and universities, you say this university or school is good for maths, this one is good for management, this one is good for this one is good for that. If we could actually create an international and multicultural as well as multi-school, multi-university society that could really help the students to learn from each other. And sometimes you don't need to understand the whole length about geometry or calculus or whatever, you just need to understand the core principles. And the more they can share that with each other, the better. I hope the students also want the same, but we do understand that they're human beings and they're bombarded with lots of different information and knowledge every single day. They want to relax, and time is one of the constraints as well.
What about your online platform? Does it introduce students from different schools, different nationalities to each other?
Yeah,
studying.
and it's beautiful because now there is conflict happening between Russia and Ukraine, but the Russian and Ukrainian students are in one classroom along with Chinese students, Indian students, Nigerian students, Congo students, Brazilian students. You see that the kids, they actually really connect, and they're really curious, and they're really supportive of each other, and that's just a beautiful sight to see, basically.
Definitely. Engineer Bello, do you have final thoughts on it?
Yes, final thoughts. I think my final thoughts would be, I mentioned earlier that it's really important, obviously, and as we know, the reason why this topic was picked is because many platforms, even online or around most educators that have had good experience of it, they'll tell you they are all for it. So I think that is something that we can all accept. How we go about it is up to us. As Mr. Kumar mentioned, that sometimes time is a constraint. But let me just end by giving an advice as far as how to handle that time issue, because I've also faced it with my students. Sometimes simulation helps. So usually when given, especially on assignments, I just simulate a scenario and I tell student A that how would you teach a student, so I create a scenario about another student in somewhere in Asia or wherever it is, or even in another school within that jurisdiction. How would you teach them how to solve simultaneous equations, for instance? How would you teach a Chinese student how to do simultaneous equation in Chinese? So I'm basically integrating mathematics with languages. So what I do, what helps me with the time issue, is I give assignments, such assignments for them to really go and think of how they would teach a particular topic or a subject or an issue, challenge that the student is facing. But the way they present that information is also in different ways that I do it, because they all have different skill sets or talents. Sometimes they do it in a narrative way. Sometimes I tell them in a 1-minute video, film yourself teaching simultaneous equations, to a student that is having challenges with the elimination method or with this method or that method. So sometimes to handle the issue of the time constraint, that's what I do. And so they go home and then they do it. But as I said, it's important you set the standard from the beginning in terms of what you're looking for as far as high quality is concerned, so that when they are going to do the assignment, they know, okay, if the simultaneous equation or whatever topic it is in this way or that way, then that means I'm on the wrong track. So the standards have to be shared with them also, so that we guide whatever they are creating in terms of that simulation of peer learning. So sometimes that helps. But sometimes when you can just peer them and then send them off on their homework to really teach each other, so they can do it as assignments. That will help the time issue. So for me, that's what has helped with the challenge that Mr. Kumar mentioned on time, as far as peer learning is concerned.
So to sum up, actually peer learning is beneficial. We can get around the time constraint, we can get around the financial constraint. It builds more self-esteem into the students' confidence. And I think we have 4 minutes for any questions or inquiries. If you'd like to ask any, yes, please.